each year I realize I'm a year older, and we've been doing this now for 14 years, which is somewhat sobering to think about. But it's also encouraging and kind of comforting to me as a regulator to think of how many companies have been recognized over the years and the impact collectively that those companies have had in terms of improving environmental quality in the city of Huntsville. Most of the companies that have been recognized and are being recognized this year, although our focus is on air pollution control and air quality, the efforts of these companies really extend to every environmental medium, and these companies have strongly embraced the concept of sustainability. So it's with great pleasure that I can sort of act as master of ceremony for this 14th annual awards presentation. Something I have to remind folks every year is there's a specified order that I'll ask the companies to come up and be recognized, but that order is alphabetical, so there shouldn't be any kind of bragging rights associated with being first. You just have an advantage if your corporate name starts with A. And the first company that we'll be recognizing this year is Adtran. And Adtran has been recognized before. They have a long history of proactive environmental actions. And for the past several years, Adtran has had a very aggressive energy conservation strategy. And they've pursued a series of projects. And in 2010, there were several projects that they implemented. They installed variable frequency drives on 2 chillers. They upgraded their building HVAC control systems to include demand-controlled ventilation. You can Google almost anything now, and I did Google that, and that's kind of a neat concept where carbon dioxide sensors are used so that, particularly in areas that have variable occupancy, the amount of makeup air and the demands imposed on the HVAC system are adjusted depending on how many people are there. And it can be a significant energy saver. They also continued with a long-term program of lighting retrofits. And collectively, just in this one year, the changes they made, the investments they made in energy conservation resulted in 2.4 million kilowatt hours of electricity savings each year. That's an extremely impressive number. And it's a big number, and it's kind of hard to get your hands around it. But that's enough to power 135 homes each year. Just the savings from the projects they implemented in one year. Over the past several years, their savings have been almost 9 million kilowatt hours a year. That's enough essentially to power a subdivision, 500 homes. So we're delighted to recognize Adtran for their continued efforts, particularly for the things they did in 2010. And accepting the award on behalf of Adtran is Sherry James.
I'm going to try that. On behalf of the Air Pollution Control Board, we're pleased to recognize Adtran for reducing energy or reducing electricity consumption and associated regional emissions from power generation by retrofitting light fixtures, modifying chiller units, and upgrading automated building control systems. We really appreciate what you've done.
Thank you.
The Boeing company has also been recognized a series of times for their proactive efforts, and they are also being recognized for their work in energy conservation. Several years ago, Boeing developed a 5-year plan to look at every possible avenue on their campus to reduce electricity usage. And they've been implementing that plan, I think, for 4 years. So they're getting close to the end of that original 5-year plan, if I'm remembering things right, which may or may not be correct. They continued with lighting retrofits. They retrofitted the lighting in 2 of their buildings in 2010, a total of 549 fixtures. And the savings, just from what they did in 2010, were 221,000 kilowatt hours annually. That's enough to power 13 homes. Over the past several years, I went back and just added up the numbers. The total savings have been over 1.5 million kilowatt hours a year, enough to power 86 homes. So we're delighted to recognize Boeing for their ongoing efforts to reduce energy use. And accepting on behalf of Boeing is Tony Jones.
On behalf of the Air Pollution Control Board, we are pleased to recognize the contribution of Boeing Company for reducing electricity consumption and associated emissions from power generation by retrofitting 550 light fixtures. We appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you so much.
Do this. This can go with you.
Thanks, Greg, and thanks to the board for the recognition, and to all the winners here today and people being recognized, thank you for what you do. You know, you don't realize as you're sitting there and I was sitting there, you look at these lights. Mayor, I think it's time, buddy. But in any case, you know, I tell our people, you know, one small step for mankind. You just got to have a plan and stay after it. Christina and all the environmental health and safety team at Boeing are very good at that. And you don't realize till I just listened to Dan about if you start a plan and you start just the 2 buildings we did, well, buildings around here have a lot of light fixtures, and start working towards conserving energy and doing your part, eventually you make a difference. And that's what we're trying to do. And we've got some other ideas coming next year, and we'll continue to work this effort. And I just appreciate all the others awardees here today for what you're doing, and thank you and your employees. Thank you.
The next company that's being recognized this year is Huntsville Hospital. And if we look at regionally where the majority of emissions come from, they come from power generation. Now, I've talked about that a little bit, and much of what we're recognizing this year is for reduction in electricity usage. The other big player in regional emissions are automobiles, no surprise to anyone. And Huntsville Hospital, they kind of attacked both sides. So they did a very significant electricity usage reduction project. Of course, the Huntsville Hospital has a big campus, so the numbers are big. They retrofitted 7,000 light fixtures, and the total electricity savings from that project were 2.2 million kilowatt hours annually. Again, that's a big number. I like to put it in something I can understand. How many homes is that equivalent to? And for Huntsville Hospital, that's 126 homes. So that's a very significant and a wonderful project that they did. They also operated a fleet of 3 electric vehicles, so that their security folks, they're using electric cars to move within the campus. That saved, if we figure, it eliminated 3 gasoline-powered cars, and if we use a number of 20 miles to the gallon, that saved 11,000 gallons of gasoline a year. Something that makes this project even more appealing to me is they operate the electric cars, but they didn't increase their electricity usage to do it because they installed solar panels to charge the batteries on the cars. So there's a 3 kW solar panel array that they installed for that purpose. Just a great collection of projects. And accepting on behalf of Huntsville Hospital is Horace Dover.
Again, on behalf of the Air Pollution Control Board, we're pleased to recognize Huntsville Hospital for operating 3 electric vehicles, installation of a 3 kilowatt solar panel array and charging station, and retrofitting over 7,000 light fixtures, thereby reducing regional emissions associated with electric power generation. Congratulations.
The next company that's being recognized also has been recognized repeatedly, and that's National Copper and Smelting Company. National Copper manufactures copper tubing, and they have a vapor degreaser that is used to clean the tubing. Some of the tubing is extremely small diameter, and it's very difficult to clean. Minimizing solvent emissions from that vapor degreaser has become almost like a mission for their plant engineer. And over the past several years, each year they've been modifying that degreaser to further reduce solvent emissions. So they have added a refrigerated condenser. They have done a whole series of things. And what they did this in 2010, one more step toward reducing solvent emissions from that piece of equipment. It was a 2-stage degreaser. In other words, there were 2 tanks filled with halogenated solvent. And Nelson said, well, we might be able to get away with a single-stage cleaning operation. So they tested that, and it worked out fine. So they actually drained one of the 2 stages of that vapor degreaser, and that had a number of effects. It doubled what's called the freeboard ratio. That's the distance from the solvent level to the air interface. It reduced the heating load on the degreaser, and it increased the cooling capacity of their refrigerated condenser because only half as much of the solvent was being heated. So all of those things combined resulted in even further reductions in halogenated solvent emissions. And the persistence of continuing to try to find ways to reduce those emissions is really admirable. And it was almost amusing when the board was reading about the most recent modifications to the degreaser. They said, well, what are they going to do next year? What else is there to box in or cool off? But I suspect they might think of something. Accepting on behalf of National Copper is Nelson Gill.
On behalf of the Air Pollution Control Board, we are pleased to recognize National Copper and Smelting Company for reducing halogenated solvent emissions by a conversion of their vapor degreaser from 2-stage system to a single-stage system. Again, thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank everybody. We will keep working on it, and we have some other projects in mind. Some of them involve electric lighting and that kind of thing. So hope to be back next year.
The next company being recognized is Northrop Grumman, and this is also for energy conservation, electricity usage reduction. In 2010, they retrofitted the lighting in their high bay area and also installed programmable controls to make sure that the lights were actually off when they weren't needed. And those 2 projects, retrofitting the light fixtures and installing the controllers, resulted in a savings in electricity of 393,000 kilowatt hours annually. and as is my habit, that's equivalent to the power usage by 22 homes in the Huntsville area. And of course, you know, each of these, when you think about these big numbers, these savings that are made, you know, it's not a one-time thing. It's once you make those improvements, those savings are realized each and every year. And not only is that important from an air quality standpoint, but it's also important in terms of looking down the road in an area of growth. You know, how do we continue to have a reliable electrical grid and to provide adequate generation capacity? And a very key part of that are these efforts to make conservation and efficiency a key part of our whole approach to electricity. So there are all kinds of benefits, and we're delighted to recognize Northrop Grumman for their efforts, and accepting on behalf of Northrop Grumman is Golden Czermack.
On behalf of the Air Pollution Control Board, we are pleased to recognize the contributions to air quality by Northrop Grumman Systems Corporation for installation of programmable timers and retrofitting 166 lamp light fixtures in their High Bay area. Thank you.
Last and certainly not least is Toyota Motor Manufacturing, Alabama. Like several of the companies that are here, Toyota is almost a fixture at these annual awards program. And since their plant opened, there might be 2 years that Toyota didn't have a project that was recognized, but more often than not, they have had at least one project during the preceding year that has been worthy of recognition by the board. What Toyota did in 2010, you know, we've talked and looked at several companies here that have made changes to the equipment within the facility. Part of energy conservation and energy savings is also looking at what you've got and making sure it's performing at its optimal level. Since the HVAC systems were originally put in and the plant was originally built, there have been a lot of changes at the Toyota plant. And over time, that system came to be out of balance. In part, perhaps because of energy conservation efforts they've made in the past. So what Toyota did, and they were motivated largely by making sure that they maintained the quality of the indoor air. They realized that they had a slightly negative pressure inside the building, which is not desirable from an indoor air quality standpoint. So they examined their HVAC systems very carefully and then systematically went through, and what they found is that by turning off several of their exhaust fans, they were able to balance the system, maintain a slight positive pressure, improve both comfort and indoor air quality just by turning some things off. And of course, these are pretty good sized fans. So turning off those fans actually resulted in saving almost 1.3 million kilowatt hours a year in electricity. That's enough to power 72 homes. So it's not just a question of changing the fixtures or the equipment you have, but it's also a question of making sure you get optimum performance out of the equipment that's already in place. And Toyota, I'll probably mispronounce it, this quest for continuous improvement, and it's kind of their rallying cry, is Kaizen. And Tom will pronounce it correctly when he comes up. Accepting the award on behalf of Toyota is Tom Cashin.
On behalf of the Air Pollution Control Board, we are pleased to recognize Toyota Motor Manufacturing, Alabama, for optimizing HVAC operation by reducing the number of exhaust fans running at any given time, thereby lowering electricity consumption and associated regional emissions from power generation. Congratulations.
So Danny, you talked about your 18 font. I also am at the 18 font level, but the next thing that goes is the memory, so I will have to get out my cheat sheet as well. So on behalf of Toyota Motor Manufacturing, we're very proud to be here today and accept this award. By the way, as of last Monday, we are actually the only plant in North America that now produces a 4, 6, and an 8-cylinder engine, which is very outstanding for us. But I just want everyone here to know that this project was actually conceived by one of our team members and implemented by that same team member. So that's why it's very special to us to be recognized for that, that accomplishment. It's projects like these that have allowed us to reduce our overall energy by 14% over the last 5 years, and we continue to look for future ways of doing so. We at Toyota Motor Manufacturing could not do anything without the help of our team members, administration, contractors, and our executive leadership. Our team members' knowledge and dedication regarding our environmental program exemplifies our results in reducing, reusing, and recycling efforts at our plant. As a responsible corporate citizen, one of our guiding principles is to educate our team members as well as our community. Our goal through environmental education outreach is to nurture an environmental culture that will inspire generations to come. Again, on behalf of Toyota Motor Manufacturing, we'd like to thank the board, the Huntsville Pollution Board, and also Danny for recognizing our team. Thank you very much.
These reductions in electricity usage and also their reductions in process emissions, Toyota's been recognized several times for that as well. That has been at the same time that they've been increasing their employment, increasing production levels. And so if you look at efficiency in terms of production units or number of personnel, it really is remarkable. A number of years ago, one of the purposes of these awards is to highlight and show as examples proactive efforts by area industry in the hope that other facilities, other companies, other businesses will look at that and say, those are things that we could do as well. So there's almost an educational purpose to the whole idea of the awards ceremony and the presentation and the recognition. Several years ago, the board said, well, in addition to recognizing emission reduction efforts, since that education component is such an important part of this, we should also recognize educational efforts by area industry to spread the word and educate the public, educate their employees, educate their peers. So there's a separate category of awards called the Air Quality Education Awards. And there are 3 companies that are being recognized for their efforts in that regard. And they're a familiar cast of characters. The first is Adtran. Adtran has established a number of programs within their facility to educate their employees, incorporate environmental awareness, energy conservation into employee orientation and that kind of thing. But the board tends to say, but what have you done for me lately? And so the education awards, if you're just continuing ongoing programs, that you're already recognized for that. You won't be recognized for it again unless you've done something new. Well, and Adtran did do several new things in 2010 to warrant recognition. One of the things they did was they partnered with other telecommunications companies to develop a panel presentation promoting sustainability within their industry. They have also been working to develop and implement standardized efficiency standards within the telecommunications industry. And they refer to those as telecommunications equipment energy efficiency ratings, to have a standardized system. They have also, they held some special employee lunch and learn sessions highlighting energy conservation, both at work and at home. And so, and in the meantime, they've continued to implement the programs they have had in place for a number of years. So we're pleased to recognize Adtran, and accepting on behalf of Adtran, once again, is Sherry James.
On behalf of the Air Pollution Control Board, we're pleased to recognize Adtran for conducting energy conservation lunch and learn employee sessions, developing a panel presentation promoting sustainability, and improvement in developing telecommunications equipment efficiency standards. Thank you.
On behalf of Adtran, we're honored to receive these awards and be here today. And we're dedicated to our corporate social responsibility and will continue our sustainability efforts in the future. Thank you.
Boeing is also a company that is committed to promoting a culture within their company of responsibility, of environmental awareness, and they have had a number of programs in place to encourage their employees to carry that, not just in the workplace, but at home as well. Boeing is very involved in the community, as all the companies here are. A couple of the things that were highlighted and were different about what Boeing has done in 2010 were they did co-sponsor the second Corporate Social Responsibility Conference for Cummings Research Park. And as an outgrowth or a component of that, they also helped establish the Tennessee Valley Sustainability Council. And what that is, it's a voluntary association of area industry and businesses that is designed to exchange information and promote valuable lessons learned in terms of things that can be done to promote energy conservation and sustainability in general. Accepting once again on behalf of Boeing is Tony Jones.
On behalf of the Air Pollution Control Board, we are pleased to recognize the contribution to air quality by the Boeing Company for providing energy conservation education to employees and helping to establish the Sustainability Council of the Tennessee Valley, a collaborative association of area businesses. Thank you. Again. Thanks, Greg. This goes with you.
Well, again, thank you very much to the board, and this recognition obviously is very much appreciated by us, and Mayor Battle, thank you for your leadership and support in this venue. You know, a few weeks ago, Tommy and I were sitting at the Botanical Gardens at the Green University, and I was sitting there thinking, as I was this morning, coming up on our family day this Saturday, when we're going to offer an energy kind of class to some of our young children who are going to come visit as part of a family day. But you got to start with some generations. As you sit there and think about this, if we had some of the same educational venues when we were growing up, and my generation was growing up, we probably would have made a lot more progress than what we have to do today. So we just got to keep after it. And thanks to all of you for what you do, and thanks to the board and Mayor Battle for your leadership. Thank you.
The third company that is being recognized for their efforts in air quality education is Toyota. And again, that's a long tradition for Toyota. It's a part of their corporate culture. It is part of their employee orientation. And although they've had that program in place, that is something that does warrant special recognition again, because instead of just providing that to new employees that result from natural turnover, they had a large number of new team members who were hired for the 4-cylinder production lines. So they actually put 200 new employees through that environmental awareness orientation. And that, I think, deserves special recognition. There were several things that Toyota did that were a little different than things they've done in the past. One thing they did is they installed what they call a living green wall in their lobby. I went out to conduct a compliance inspection of the facility, and they had taken down the living green wall because, I think it was because some of the plants had died, but I don't know if I'm remembering that part correctly. But I was anxious to see it. I did see a picture of it. But I think that's a great idea. So visitors, anybody who's entering the plant, there's a big display on things that can be done to, again, to promote sustainability. Another thing they did is they participated in the Career Quest series that was sponsored by SciQuest, pointing out to young people employment or career opportunities within the environmental field. They also worked with the state in developing an energy savings calculator. And what that is, the purpose of that is to look at equipment opportunities within a facility to reduce electricity usage, to save energy. And it helps you determine what payback periods are associated with that, what savings in energy use you can expect. So that's a tool that companies can use to evaluate possible projects. And so that also is a wonderful public education effort. Accepting on behalf of Toyota is Tom Cashin.
On behalf of the Air Pollution Control Board, we're pleased to recognize the contribution to air quality by Toyota Motor Manufacturing, Alabama, for installing a living green wall in the lobby, providing environmental awareness training to 200 new employees, participating in a Greens Job panel discussion for area students, and working to develop an energy calculator for use in performing energy audits. Thank you.
Once again, thank you, Board. Thank you, Danny, Mayor. I can't take any credit for any of this. That's why I brought backup. And in the front row here, I have the Assistant Manager for Environmental and Safety, Janine Horton, and also the Environmental Specialist, Chris Gray, here with me today, who I have to give all the credit to their training and education to the team members. You brought up a very sore subject about the green wall, Danny, but let me just explain. The tornadoes had a devastating effect on Alabama when we lost the power. But it was a very good learning experience for us, because not only did we realize that we had several important critical functions that should have been on our generator backup that were not on it. That was one of the pieces of equipment that was not on our generator backup. However, we did Kaizen. You mentioned that a little while ago. It seemed that we were watering our flowers too much and maybe causing a little bit of erosion to the roots. However, we did purchase a digital electric timer that we can now water our plants 5 minutes a day versus the 30 minutes that we were. So we're also saving energy with our living wall. And again, I owe it to their leadership, their passion, and their education of our team members who walk through our door that make our program very, very wonderful. Thank you.
I really am very appreciative, and on behalf of the board, I want to thank all of the companies that are being recognized today, and I think we should give each of you another round of applause.
To the Air Pollution Control Board, I want to say thank you for the work that y'all have done to make this community even better. And to each of the companies sitting out here represented, you're part of our quality of life. You make Huntsville a little bit better every day, and that quality of life is what makes people want to move here and want to be here, want to live here, and makes people satisfied with the environment that we have provided. So to all of you, you are a big integral part of making Huntsville the success that it is. Thank you for the work that you've done.